Hare Krishna. One good way to understand yoga is to see yoga as having three main aspects. I call it the threefold yoga. So the threefold path of yoga means that you're going to work on three separate fronts at the same time. And they are behavior, study, and devotion. You see this in the Bhagavad Gita. In the beginning chapters where Krishna is explaining yoga, he explains first karma yoga in chapter 3, then jnana yoga in chapter 4, and then finally he gets up to bhakti yoga from chapter 7 onwards. So these three paths of yoga. In the Yoga Sutras, you see this very clearly. In Sutra 2.1, the beginning of the sadhana pad, which means the practice part of yoga, of the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali explains what he calls Kriya Yoga, yoga in action, he says. Kriya Yoga means, and then he lays out the three things. Behavior, noble behavior, which he calls tapas, like choosing the right thing. Swadhyaya, self-study, and Ishvara Pranidhana, which is devotion. So it's the same thing. So you find this all over. And what are these three things? First, and let's just take a look at them. First, behavior, which can be tapas, which can be, dharma. You have different terms for it. But basically what it means is how you behave in life, the choices you make. What kind of food are you going to eat? How are you going to behave with other people? What's your relationship with the planet? How are you going to behave at work, with your parents, with your children, with your family? What kind of action you do? What kind of things do you say? What do you watch? Just your behavior in general, from lifestyle choices to the way you go about life. And the idea is, and this you'll find also in other religions where this will be seen, is basically you have to be a good person. The foundation of yoga is being a good, of any spiritual path, of any religious path, is being a good person. So not lying, not stealing, that kind of thing, not killing. That kind of thing is what gives you the foundation to then expand your consciousness further, being a good person. Whatever that entails, good neighbor, good wife, good father, whatever. Good employee, good boss, good president, whatever you're doing, just be like a good person. So that's behavior. Second, study. So again, it's called jnana yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. It's called swadhyaya in the Yoga Sutras. And the idea is that you have to study life. You have to cultivate transcendental wisdom and knowledge. And there's some specific facts about reality which you have to absorb in order to advance spiritually. So you have to know about your transcendental nature, like am I a body? Is there something else? Am I a soul? What does that mean? What's the nature of the soul? These things are essential to advance. God, is there a God? What is God? What's it, how do you explain that? What's God got to do with anything? Etc. And even some hidden laws of nature. For example, the law of karma and reincarnation. So you have to know about these things. And the gunas in the yogas, we have to understand the modes of material nature, the gunas, understand how does the world work? What's the impact? How does the world affect my consciousness? How does my consciousness affect the world? So these hidden laws, this is all knowledge you need. And with this knowledge, then you can change your worldview, you can change your practices because you've absorbed knowledge. So jnana, study, is essential. And then lastly, bhakti, or Ishvara Pranidhana in the Yoga Sutras. Bhakti. You need devotion. Because in the end, it's all about love, and love is devotion. Devotion is your loving relationship with God specifically. It's a very important relationship because your relationship with God is, there's, gazillions, uncountable trillions of souls, but your relationship with God is unique in that you and God have a permanent, eternal, primordial relationship. So working that relationship is the essence of life, and it's certainly the essence of spiritual life, of spiritual practice. That connection, how are you going to work that? How does it work? What are your options? How do you develop it? Why should you? All these things, this is all bhakti. So then bhakti is a separate thing, and you work on that through, prayer and mantras, and I also study in your life, and you make your life an offering. Big theme, of course, in the Bhagavad Gita, this is the main theme. And even in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says that Ishvara Pranidhana, devotion, is the perfection of yoga. Samadhi seed here, Ishvara Pranidhana. The perfection of yoga comes from devotion. The perfection of the perfection, because it's samadhi, siddhi. Samadhi is the perfection of yoga, siddhi, perfection. So the perfection of yoga comes from devotion to God. And that message you'll find not only in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and some Upanishads, and the Yoga Sutras. That is the core message of all spiritual texts from the Indic tradition, and of course also, especially from the Abrahamic traditions in the Bible. Of course, that's the main thing. So this love of God is unanimously the ultimate stage of spiritual perfection. And so bhakti is essential. So those are the three things you'll develop. Working your behavior, fine-tuning your behavior, like ever more dharmic, ever more with your mind here now, ever more sattvic with the kind of food and practices, cleanliness, all these things are behavior. And then knowledge, you cultivate knowledge, you watch lectures, you do retreats, you read books especially, or hear books, and then you cultivate knowledge. And then bhakti, with all this knowledge and with this correct behavior, your mind becomes very open to devotion, and you can start experiencing your loving connection to God. So that's the three paths. The threefold path of yoga. Hare Krishna.